crackdown. So is this a sign that the president is backing down? Today, Border Patrol Commander-at-Large Greg Bavino, he's seen here in this archive video throwing a gas canister at protesters last week. He's going to be leaving town. He's expected to take some of the 3,000 federal agents in the city along with him. The White House.
Oh, and shout out Monty for the Rumble rant on Rumble. He said, feel free to explore any one of these many links. They cover a lot of what you're saying. There's too many to talk about, but damn. Yeah, I know. I was seeing you unload them, and I'm just like, Jesus, like there's too many. But yeah, there's so many cases, and all you gotta go is on DHS.gov, and you can look up all these cases of ICE officers pretty much being attacked, assaulted, battered, like having things thrown at them. I mean, what was it? I think somebody threw piss at an officer. Like, come on now.
Says Border Czar Tom Homan will take over the operation. For protesters on the ground, Bavino's exit is only a first step.
Good riddance. Couldn't have came sooner. And but I mean, that doesn't mean everything stops, right? We can't take back what happened before, but we're still living in trauma from Renee and countless other people, right? But now we have this, that he came to our community and caused all this damage. It doesn't just go away because he leaves, and then who comes next and what happens next?
Joining me now in the group chat, Alex Thompson, CNN political analyst and national political reporter at Axios, Audrey Fahlberg, National Review politics reporter, and Chuck Rocha, Democratic strategist and former senior advisor to the Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns.
I mean, probably not a good, I ain't gonna lie, that's probably not a good credential right there. Seeing that Bernie Sanders ain't never really make it like that, but it is what it is.
Alex, can I start with you? Because we got some signals from the White House. The president said he had a conversation with Governor Walz, I believe, that there's some dialogue there. But what do you think made the administration finally rethink how it was talking about the death of Alex Preddy and the ICE tactics overall?
Well, because for the first time in probably at least a decade, the politics of immigration are no longer on Trump's side. He always felt that this was his strongest issue, and every poll showed that was the case. With the increase, and this is not just about Alex Preddy, this is about increasingly over the course of the last year, voters have increasingly soured on the way that Trump has
we have
done
some polling about this. The New York Times Siena poll, how ICE is handling its job. The number I always look at, independents, 70% disapprove. And this was January 12th. So this was even
New York Times. Okay, bro. And I don't even know where this Siena University is at, but New York Times. All right, bro. That makes sense. And let's see here. We're talking about the disapproval. Of course, independents, 75%. Of course, Dems, 95%. And then with the GOP approval among, what was it, 78%, disapproval 20%. To be quite honest, I mean, yeah, there are people on our side that don't really like how ICE is going about it, but they don't really understand this problem either. They're like, yeah, bro, if you actually understand what they're doing to these ICE agents in Minneapolis, you would sit there and approve of what they're doing. This 20%, I'm pretty sure if you showed them everything that Monty showed me on DHS.gov about all these assaults on ICE officers, a lot of them would be like, okay, they kind of have no choice. But hey, it is what it is.
Before this second shooting.
And they know that, and they sense it. And so Trump is now frantically, you also have a looming government shutdown that will happen, or at least partial government shutdown that could happen as soon as this weekend, unless they can pass some of the DHS bills. And you need Democratic votes to do that. So the Trump administration is now trying to do all these things via executive actions to try to placate some Democrats. But Democrats so far have said they're not going to go along with it.
Now, I had seen the Wall Street Journal editorial board. You had seen other people sort of come out and say, hey, I think this is backfiring. Is the president hearing it? But the thing that stuck out to me was Chris Medell. He's a former candidate for Minnesota governor. I say former because he has just decided to drop out from the race. And to give people some context, this is the guy who apparently was the lawyer representing the ICE agent who shot Renee Good. So think about that. Very high profile, and he thought he was going to then run for office. Instead, he released this statement on Monday.
I support the beginning of Operation Metro Surge, the idea of getting rid of the worst, and they did some of that. But it has gone so far beyond that goal that it just got to a point where I just literally cannot support that. I can't look my daughters in the eye and say, yeah, I'm doing the right thing by continuing this campaign, by being a member of this effort.
There's political ramifications all across the board here, but there's also real life ramifications. The reason what you're seeing from the White House is because you can say a lot about Donald Trump, and I disagree with a lot of things with Republicans and what they do, but he is politically astute and he understands when poll numbers start sinking around an issue that's very direct. And this is to Alex's point. If you looked at those independent numbers prior to the election,
I'll give him that one. He's seen the poll numbers dip a little bit, and he's like, all right, maybe I need to make some changes. He's not as stubborn as people like to make him out to be. It's like, well, he's actually pretty flexible, especially if he sees that people, and especially in his own camp, is not approving of what's going on in Minnesota. He's going to make some changes. And that's what he did. He said, all right, then, well, Border Patrol, get up out of there, go back to the border, and we're going to bring in Tom Homan, and we're going to tactically retreat for now with ICE, and we're going to bring them down once we get some reconnaissance on the ground.
Upside down when you asked him if they should be deporting criminals or people that were doing bad things. 70% of independents would have been for that. But to Alex's point, it's the way that they've implemented that. We're not talking about the border being closed. We're not talking about actually bad people that's been deported. We're talking about what we're seeing in the street with American citizens dying, and that's his problem.
But I think this is also putting into stark relief of the very real and long existing tensions within the administration about how this deportation strategy is taking place. So we have people like Noam Corey Lewandowski, Stephen Miller, who want deportations up as much as possible for their own sake. And we have people like Tom Homan, who is seen
for their own sake. I mean, bro, what? I hate how she phrased that. It's like, oh, they want deportations up for their own sake. No, I would like it. It's for my sake. It's honestly for almost every American's sake. Even if you don't like it, it's for your sake as well. It's also for the youth's sake, because really these illegal immigrants hurt the youth. They really hurt the black community. So it's for more than just his sake. It's kind of crazy how she put it like that. Like they're just doing it for themselves. They're just deporting illegal immigrants because they just love to do it oh so much. And I'm just like, no, they're doing it because, well, one, it's the law. And it's a necessity. It has to be done.
By Republicans as more of the adult in the room. You know, he's controversial among Democrats, of course.
We heard folks at Fox repeatedly saying, you know who you should send in? Tom Homan.
Right,
and then pretty shortly after Tom Homan was going in.
Proof that the president definitely watches a lot of Fox News.
Yeah.
But he's, proponent of more of this worst first kind of, focusing on illegal aliens with a criminal background. But I think, another thing, there's a tragic, fatal shooting in and of itself. And there's the administration's response to it. And Noam and Stephen Miller accusing Preddy of domestic terrorism was obviously not the right course.
Well, you saw this last weekend, it was the Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem response to this, because that is how they responded to every controversy over the last year. And what's so striking is that this is the administration overruling in some ways Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, which they have not done so far this term.
And I heard that there was a meeting with Noem and Trump at the White House.
And Lewandowski.
But not Miller?
On my understanding, I'm not sure. I'm sure he was somewhat involved. I know that those two were in the meeting.
President Trump says he and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are, quote, on the same wavelength after a call on Monday. They spoke for the first time since federal immigration agents shot and killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. Walz says he told Trump he needs to reduce the number of federal agents in his state, and he said he felt a definite change in tone.
We've laid out the case that we do the right thing. We don't want criminals here, but we also recognize that someone coming here to find a better life should be treated with dignity, that Americans shouldn't be fearing for their lives to go out of their house just because of the...
I mean, bro, it's the rhetoric that you spewed. Like, and of course, Tim Walz has no accountability, but like I said, when you're saying that, oh, ICE is going to take you away to torture dungeons, how do you expect your people to feel about that? And you're their governor saying this. You're not just some random old dude on the street, bro. You're their governor saying this stuff, and you didn't think this was gonna cause some type of hysteria in among your constituents? Like, are you serious?
Color of their skin and the atrocities we're seeing. And I think Donald Trump understands it too.
Group chat is back. I want to talk about this tonal shift for both of them. First, I think for the longest time, I have heard this argument over the last couple of days, especially from conservative and right-wing voices that say basically there was a far left organization that kind of put Preddy in harm's way and turned him into a martyr, that this is all part of a strategy. And can I come to you, sort of, are you seeing this as well? And is that starting to fall apart under public scrutiny?
I think it is. And I think the important thing to remember here is when a tragic situation like this happens, our government officials are supposed to tone down the temperature, say this is a tragedy, and we're going to investigate the matter. That's not really what we saw from people like Noam and Miller, who again accused.
I mean, hold on now. Like I said, see, they don't ever hold their own side accountable. So what about what Jacob Fry said? What about what Tim Walz has been saying? So, like I said, every time we tell you guys to turn down the rhetoric, it's like you try to flip it back on us as if we were the ones calling ICE Gestapo and Nazis and telling you guys that they're going to carry you way off to a torture dungeon. We weren't saying that. The left was. Y'all was. So please kill us with the whole, I'm sorry, but spare us with the whole, oh, you guys need to turn down the temperature. No, you guys need to turn down the temperature because of the rhetoric that you guys were spewing all day. That's the reason Robert Nagel is no longer here. That's the reason why Alex Petty died. It's your fault. Now, I know y'all not going to reconcile with that, and that's fine, but trust me, anybody who's been paying attention and seen how you guys been talking about ICE can obviously see that, yeah, well, this is what this rhetoric leads to.
Of being a domestic terrorist. I think if he had withdrawn his weapon, he did have a concealed carry permit. If he had withdrawn his weapon and tried to shoot somebody, that would have been a different situation. But that wasn't the case here. He was filming.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He walked up to interfere in a law enforcement scene armed, without letting that officer know. Like, bro, you're supposed to let the officer know beforehand that you have a gun on your person or in your vicinity, like in your car, before they even say, "Oh, yo, you know why I pulled you over?" Like during a pullover situation. So if you're supposed to let a cop know beforehand that you're armed, what makes you think it's okay to just walk up and interfere with a cop and not let him know that you're armed? I mean, here's the thing: if Alex Petty would have walked up and said, "Hey, look, I'm armed. I just want to help this lady up," all right, maybe that'd have been treated differently. But he didn't. He walked up, interfered, armed, not letting the officer know that. Like, you're not even supposed to do that in a traffic stop. Like, really think about that.
A law enforcement operation.
And they sort of stepped on a rake going after his gun rights. It felt like you had some voices saying, the criminal intent is having a gun, and then your own party is then not going to love that.
The pro-Second Amendment party was now saying that, well, just by having a gun.
Like I said, they're disingenuous. You know damn well if you were getting put over by a cop, you had a gun in your car, you're going to tell the officer about that gun. Because if you're engaging with an officer, you kind of got to let them know that you're armed. Like, yes, especially if they're talking to you, they're trying to detaining you, they're pulling you over, and you have a gun on your person, you got to let them know. If you're walking up to an officer, I would think you would have to let them know, yo, I have a gun on me. You just can't walk up and not let them know that. And if they find out and you didn't let them know that, they're going to treat you pretty aggressively, and rightfully so.
Around law enforcement, you are there for
no common sense.
They also completely misrepresented what happened. And if we had not had cell phone video from lots of different angles, they like the government's word would have been perhaps the last word. So by them misrepresenting it, and then we still haven't even seen the body cam footage from many of the officers too, which could actually make this a bigger crisis for the administration.
In a statement, Governor Tim Walz's office, they said the president also agreed to look into reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota and working with the state in more coordinated fashion on immigration enforcement and regarding violent criminals. There are some people who are going to see that statement and say, look, if Tim Walz had cooperated in the first place, maybe none of this would happen.
I don't think any amount of cooperation would have stopped this administration or the Republicans for trying to get the visual what they want, which is them trying to be tough and quote unquote deporting bad criminals. And absolutely any bad criminal who done something bad should be deported. But this is not what they did. And let's be clear that there's real consequences to what they're saying.
But here's the thing, they got a clear obstruction too. And apparently they didn't see the beforehand video where, this guy Alex was heavily involved in the protest. Actually, he was in the middle of the street, directing traffic, trying to interfere with ICE. Is like, yes, he was filming, but I'm gonna be honest with you, when he stepped in front of that ICE officer to help that lady, that's interfering with the law enforcement scene. But also, he also got into some other, prior engagements with ICE as well. I mean, you're CNN pretty much saying it.
CNN is learning that Alex Petty had a physical encounter with federal agents about a week before he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Sources tell CNN that Petty broke a rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting. Priscilla Alvarez is breaking that story for us. What else are you hearing, Priscilla? Dana, we're learning more details along with my colleague Jeff Winter about what exactly transpired a week before Alex Preddy was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Now, in this earlier incident, he stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle. Preddy later told one of these sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to leave him with a broken rib. According to this source, and I'm quoting here, that source said, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. Now, Preddy was later given medication that is consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. Sources also say that he was known to federal law enforcement, though it's unclear whether it was this incident or another with federal agents that they knew of him. It's also unclear whether the officers who tackled him on Saturday knew who he was. What we do know, however, is that federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information of protesters and agitators within the context of what the Department of Homeland Security has warned is repeated threats towards officers as they are conducting immigration enforcement operations. In fact, just Tuesday, the department also publicized an online tip form to share information about people allegedly harassing ICE officers. We've also heard Tom Homan, the White House border czar, say that a database would be created for those who are arrested for impeding law enforcement. But thus far, in our queries to the Department of Homeland Security, they have said that no such database exists. Unbelievable. There's a lot more to peel back there. Thank you so much for bringing us that news, Priscilla.
But yeah, so as you see, he had prior engagements with ICE, cracked the rib. I mean, let's be real. It didn't, as they said, he was part of that signal trap group. It does seem that he was part of that signal chat group that was out there stalking ICE. I mean, it makes sense why he was out there in the first place.
Joining me now is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. I appreciate you being with us here in the freezing cold. First of all, just the latest developments of, it seems, the reassignment of Mr. Bavino and the bringing in of Tom Homan. What do you make of that?
Well, it sounds like they need to change tempo in their eyes. But I can tell you that Minnesotans have had quite enough of Mr. Bavino. Glad to see him go. And the fact is that this city is outraged, is upset, we 50,000 plus marched in this freezing cold weather, 9 below, just a few days ago. The day before Mr. Preddy was shot down and killed, we marched 50,000 strong in the cold. So people are really, really upset. And I think Bavino leaving can only be a good development, and we'll hope for the best. But we're going to continue to press the claim of our state, no matter who's.
I feel
Trump now touting
it's going to be funny when, like, bro, Tom Homan comes in and he's 10 times more on it than Bavino. Oh man, Bovino. Oh man, that's it's going to be hilarious seeing this man's face after that. Like, well, I'm glad to get him out, but then Tom Homan comes in and really gets things done and really pisses these guys off. So it's going to be funny when that happens because they think they got a win here. They think, oh, we got ICE to retreat. Little do they know, no, they're going to come right back. I mean, if Tom Homan is coming there, what do you think they're just leaving for good? Like, really? No, they're going to come right back and they're going to start deporting again.
Meeting between Mayor Fry and Homan, his border czar. And Homan is now taking the lead in Minnesota. Trump's controversial top border patrol official Gregory Bovino is expected to leave Minneapolis within the next 24 hours. And he's taking some of his 2,000 masked and armed border agents with him. CNN is learning administration officials are frustrated with Bovino, who you may remember went before cameras when Alex Preddy was shot. Just within 4 hours of that shooting, in fact, he said this.
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Whoa.
It was clear.
I'm pretty sure that probably pissed Trump off as well. Like, bro, what the F are you talking about? Like, first off, y'all didn't even know he had the gun until you pretty much put him on the ground. What are you talking about? Like, he came up there to cause maximum damage. If he wanted to do that, he'd have walked up and started shooting the ICE officer just outright. They're straight shooting him and then knowing damn well he's going to get open fired on the rest of them, by the rest of them. So Yeah, if he was there to cause maximum damage, I mean, let's be real. This would have been a way more gruesome scene.
That was not true, according to the video, which contradicts what Bovino claimed. And Bovino's claims caused massive problems for this administration. Preddy, of course, is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry, according to Minnesota police, and he wasn't threatening them with it at the time. He was carrying a cell phone, according to the video. And Bovino is not the only one whose standing with Trump is quickly deteriorating because of his handling of this thus far. The White House distancing itself today from Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary's claims that Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism.
Secretary Noem said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way.
And that comes as Republicans are now openly questioning the administration's aggressive tactics and demanding answers.
We certainly should not be labeling him as being a domestic terrorist who is going to execute cops. There's no evidence to support that.
What I think the administration could do better is the tone with which they're describing this.
Yeah.
That immediately when an incident like this happens, they come out guns blazing, that we took out a violent terrorist. Hooray.
So what's the goal right now? Is it to deport every single non-U.S. citizen? I don't think that's what Americans want.
I mean, it's pretty stunning when you hear that, right? It's loud and clear. And we've now got new video, as I said, coming into out front of the incident in Minneapolis that shows the moments leading up to the shooting. And I'm going to speak to the two witnesses who filmed this.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If an ICE officer was already telling you to get back, doesn't that mean, like, and it's kind of crazy how she's showing this, like this is like, you know, helps this guy's case, but doesn't that already show that he was already getting a bit too involved in the scene? Doesn't that show he may have been getting a little bit too close to ICE operations or what they were doing? If he's already getting pushed back, and this is before he got in the way of the woman. So this officer is trying to push this guy, tell him, look, you got to get out this area while we're doing what we do. And yet he comes back. And this woman over here is literally thinking that, oh, well, this kind of proved that the ICE officers are the bad guys here. No, this proves that they're dealing with obstructionists.
With these videos. But first, let's go to Sarah Seidner. She is out front live in Minneapolis. And Sarah, you were there when Alex Preddy was killed. You were there when Minneapolis erupted afterwards. And now, obviously, Bovino leaving real repercussions from him are very significant. But what are protesters telling you?
They are significant from a 35,000-foot view, but on the ground, it's too little too late. They have already killed 2 American citizens and shot another person in less than a month. And people here are like, look, we have asked again and again for ICE to leave this community. Not just the protesters, not just the resident, not just some of the business owners here, but the governor and the mayor. And so
but here's the thing, though. The only reason that all this is happening is because the governor and the mayor are refusing to provide crowd control, refusing to bring the National Guard to put these protesters in their place. No, they want the protesters to get involved and get themselves hurt so you guys can come out with stories like this and try to make it seem like the ICE is out there just trying to hurt the citizens, but they're not. The citizens are getting themselves involved and getting themselves hurt.
those who are here, those who are mourning Alex Preddy,
But
the
the sad
37-year-old
reality.
ICU nurse who worked at the Veterans Hospital, for them, it is almost.
Oh, and shout out to my man Monty. I was missing some of your super rant, well, rumble rants. But he says Tom Homan needs to wear the medal Obama gave him. Literally. Yeah, he needs to wear that. Yeah, he needs to wear it. And shout out to Monty for sending a link. Let me see if I can go get that pulled up later on. According to the FBI, this is technically domestic terrorism. What they're doing right now, or Alex Petty? Because what they're doing right now with this whole, organizing and signaling chats and all this good stuff to impede law enforcement. I mean, bro, just borderline insurrection, basically. And yeah, I mean, domestic terrorists, yeah, they're good. Well, let's see here. Man, I hate to say this. But yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. Like, especially with those other examples that you've shown where ICE officers got hurt, that's domestic terrorism. The guys who did that, those are domestic terrorists. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you, it ain't really domestic terrorism until they hurt somebody, until they literally go out there and hurt somebody for their political ideology or for how they think. And not all of these guys we can call domestic terrorists. I'm not even really sure we can call Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist, to be honest with you. Because, well, he wasn't going out there trying to hurt the ICE officer for his political views. I think honestly he was just trying to protect that woman. Maybe he forgot that he had a gun on him. It's stupid enough, but he should have known that. He should have been more responsible while doing that. But not say that he should have stepped in there either. But I don't think we could call him a domestic terrorist. But a lot of these other guys who do attack ICE officers, who haven't trapped them and all that good stuff, those are domestic terrorists for sure.
Slap in the face. They want ICE and federal agents out of here. All of them, not some of them, not a few.
Yeah, but who's gonna uphold immigration law and get out all these undocumented immigrants? Who's gonna get out all these criminals? Not you guys, because you guys are the ones who letting them stay. And if these people are saying that they want ICE out of there, right, and they don't want to uphold the federal law or immigration laws, then this will be an insurrection. You are going against a government body, going against the federal law of the United States, federal law. You're pretty much saying that you're pushing back and saying that we want the guys who uphold federal law out of here and you're not going to uphold it yourselves. Yeah, that's an insurrection right there. And you're doing it violently too. Like, let's be honest, you're getting violent about it.
Two of them, all of them.
Sources now tell CNN that Border Patrol Commander Bovino and some of his agents are expected to leave Minneapolis tomorrow. Now, this shift in tone from the White House follows 2 days of top Trump administration officials making what can only be called blatant misrepresentations about Saturday's killing of Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old VA ICU nurse from Minneapolis. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said without evidence that Preddy...
Oh, and shout out Monty says, when we hear terrorism, we think bombs, planes, and shootings, but it's more than that. I will say it is inflammatory to say it, but according to the definition, these acts fit it. No, for sure. No, these acts definitely do fit it. Especially, like I said, with the stuff you're showing me with pretty much ICE agents being assaulted and all that. Well, actually, let me go ahead and pull this up right here. Here it is. So this is what Monty's talking about. Domestic terrorism, definition, terminology, methodology, all that good stuff. Now, does it provide domestic terrorism for FBI purpose and from the code involving acts of dangerous to human life that are a violation of criminal laws of the United States or of any state appearing or to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population? I mean, okay, that falls in line. Influence the policies of government by intimidation or coercion. Damn, actually, you know what? That is kind of right. Oh, yeah, this one fits right here. Influence the policy of government by intimidation or coercion. So pretty much saying, well, you're not going to uphold immigration law here, and we're going to intimidate you by trying to hurt ICE officers, running them down, pretty much coercion, and they're actually doing it. So it goes from intimidation to coercion. So I give you that one. Affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. Hopefully we don't reach that. But no, that's a pretty sound point right there. Go ahead and get back to it.
A gun and committed an act of domestic terrorism. Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller called him an assassin. Bovino said Preddy assaulted law enforcement. False, 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 false.
Whoa. Actually, be real with you. As soon as he put his hand out there and he tried to get in the way of law enforcement, yeah, I mean, real with you, that was assault. Yeah, you can mark that up as assault. But what else did you say, false?
Senior advisor Stephen Miller called him an assassin.
Nope, he wasn't an assassin.
Bovino said Preddy assaulted law enforcement.
I mean, actually, yeah, you can actually make that case.
False, 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 false. Those statements all at best inconsistent with what we can all see on the videos of the shooting, and at worst, egregious lies. Either way, these officials are being called out as such, even by opinion journalists who are normally quite supportive of the administration. The Wall Street Journal and the Free Press editorial boards, even the New York Post editorial board wrote today, quote, Mr. President, the
Got it.
American people didn't vote for.
And shout out Monty, because Monty said he might have learned some lessons. He said, Sid called me out, rightfully so. So I'm coming with receipts on everything. Facts.
These scenes,
I
and
get
you
that.
can't continue to order them to not believe their lying eyes, unquote. Even Leavitt wouldn't stand by the Nome and Miller lies today.
Bro.
Secretary Nome said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts and the